More now on that big miss for IBM on both earnings and revenue. Shares fell more than 7% today, and as Tyler just said, easily making it the biggest decliner in the Dow. Morgan Brennan takes a closer look now at the troubles at IBM, what's driving the slowdown, and how it's getting rid of one of its struggling divisions.
IBM has been struggling to reinvent itself as it shifts away from hardware to newer, higher growth industries like cloud computing. But today's quarterly earnings did little to assure investors the massive, years-long transition is going according to plan. Big Blue's profit and revenue sharply missed analyst expectations, thanks to slowing sales in hardware and services. The company also announced it's scrapping its 5-year plan to grow profit, an ambitious goal that was supposed to be realized next year.
IBM, unfortunately, is saddled with 2/3 of their business that's incumbent. It's very difficult to make that pace of change at a pace that investors are going to be happy with. So this is going to be a story we're probably going to be talking about for a while.
The report marked the 10th straight quarterly drop in revenue for IBM. But the company also announced it's shedding another hardware business, microelectronics, or its semiconductor manufacturing operations, in an unusual deal that will pay chipmaker GlobalFoundries $1.5 billion to take that business on. Analysts say that plan rids IBM of a lower margin, long struggling segment, but that the company still has a very long way to go, especially since profitability is falling in IBM's other ongoing businesses as well.
The software business didn't grow as fast as expected, and hardware continues to be hurt by commoditization. Those businesses are moving more towards a even steady state. The comps are getting a little bit better in some of those businesses, but they're still challenged.
CEO Ginny Rometty says she's, quote, disappointed in the company's performance, blaming a slowdown in client buying behavior and, quote, unprecedented pace of change in the industry. The company now plans to offer a new profit forecast in January. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Morgan Brennan.
And one big shareholder in Big Blue today, billionaire investor Warren Buffett. He's one of IBM's largest shareholders. And with today's sell-off, it's estimated that Buffett may have lost more than $1 billion. Tyler?
Our David Faber sat down with IBM CEO Ginny Rometty today at company headquarters in Armonk, New York. And despite those earnings and the sharp drop in share price today, Rometty sounded upbeat about where the company is focusing its efforts right now.
We're reshaping this company around analytics, around cloud, and the term I use, engagement, social, mobile, security, but all for the enterprise. Collectively, almost 20% growth, improved every single quarter, and even individually, each of those areas. Analytics, which ended last year at $16 billion, up in total 8%, a very large number. You take a look at cloud, greater than 50% again, and then social, mobile, security, every one of them.
David Faber is here with us now with more on his exclusive conversation with Ms. Rometty. David, welcome. Good to have you with us. How big a test is this for Ginny Rometty? Is this her first big one? Is her job at stake here if she can't turn it around? What?
You know, I don't think her job is at stake at this point, certainly, Tyler, but I will say that there's no doubt that this is Ginny Rometty's IBM. In fact, you could argue that the disavowing, if you will, of the roadmap that was put in place, that 5-year roadmap that they tied themselves to for many years, which was originally put in place by her predecessor, Sam Palmisano, that in a sense says finally we're done with the previous administration in any way, shape, or form. The divestitures, of course, that she has focused on, the low-end server business, the one announced today, of course, where they're actually paying to get rid of the microelectronics unit, and all of the things you heard in that interview that she just mentioned. Those are her decisions, and time will tell whether they are successful.
You know, David, we've seen a number of tech companies like Hewlett-Packard, like eBay, that are splitting themselves up. Do you think that that's ultimately down the road something that Ginny Rometty will do, or that some activist investor is going to force her to do?
I think boards these days, as you well know, Susie, are always thinking about activism, at least in some way. The case to be made by IBM for why we should not do that is because we already have. And I asked Ms. Rometty about it. I mean, they've already gotten rid of their PC business. They've gotten rid of, with today's sale, the chip business. They've gotten rid of their low-end server business. So they would argue what we really are is simply an enterprise technology company. We provide technology services to big businesses, and they want all the things that we have, so why would you separate them? That said, this is a behemoth. 430,000 employees. And so moving it quickly in what everybody argues is a faster moving environment can be difficult.
That was going to be my question here. This is a big, big company. Can it be nimble enough in today's world of cloud computing? A game, by the way, that where I think most people would say they're already playing catch up.
Yeah, I mean, we think Amazon Web Services, we think of other names when it comes to that, although they have $4.4 billion in revenues. But off of a $100 billion revenue base for the company, or a little less than that at this point, even when you're growing more quickly, Tyler, it takes a long time to really turn that around. Today's problems had to do with, well, software to a certain extent, and the services business. She said they didn't execute as well as they could have in sales and software. That gets to the point of, are you not agile enough? Remedi would say no. In fact, she did in our interview. That is not the issue. But many would argue, well, you've got a lot of smaller, more agile competitors.
I know you talked to her about Warren Buffett, and we just reported that he lost $1 billion today alone from this big sell-off. What did she have to say about Warren?
She wouldn't specifically answer, Susie, in terms of whether she spoke to him or not. One would have to assume she did, as she might have talked to many of her large shareholders, certainly did today. Before the news, unclear how many you really do talk to. But Mr. Buffett was quiet. When CNBC reached out to him, he did not offer us, I believe, any comment, as far as I'm aware. He is still a large shareholder there. There's no reason to believe that is not going to still be the case and that he is not supportive. But I will be curious to see the next time he speaks publicly about IBM.
All right, David, thanks very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it. David Faber reporting.